Now on Denver 7 News at 4, answers at last from Cherry Creek schools, why it took months for parents to get a response, and what the district is doing now to stop sexual harassment.
Nearly half of adults now say money is negatively impacting their mental health. By just starting to talk about it could be key to getting help in solving missing person cases faster. New tool investigators could be getting to identify skeletal remains when DNA is no longer an option.
Plus, relief is coming for Colorado homeowners. How much you could save with the state's new property tax cut. Thank you for joining us for Denver 7 News at 4. I'm Jacqueline Allen. Denver 7 is learning today it took Cherry Creek schools 6 months to notify the parents of a sexual harassment victim that their daughter's federal case was being dismissed. But the district did take some action on its own. We first introduced you to Ben Toth and Sarah Butler last week. They were part of a group of parents who came forward about sexual harassment and sexual assault in Cherry Creek schools. Several parents claim the district took little to no action after those incidents to protect the victims. Well, then last Friday, 4 days after Denver 7's initial report, a compliance officer with the district sent Ben and Sarah a letter stating in part, "I wrote a dismissal letter and provided it to the school." That was back in December. The letter goes on to say, "Unfortunately, I did not provide the letter of formal dismissal to you. That was an oversight on my part." The parents are dismayed at what they call utter negligence on many levels.
And reading that for the first time after waiting so long was so disheartening and discouraging, because I would have never thought that the district would just say, oh, hey, whoops, we forgot to tell you, but it's no big deal.
The common denominator here is the district. There's a lot of kids that have been affected by these types of assaults, of various natures. And the district's response is always the same. It's about nothing.
In the letter to the parents, dated April 29th, which was last Friday, the district also says that their daughter's case did rise to the level of sexual harassment under Cherry Creek school board policy. The letter says the district did take action to prevent further harassment, including disciplinary measures against the students involved. Colorado has seen skyrocketing property values, and with that comes higher property taxes. So today, Governor Polis and a bipartisan group of lawmakers announced what they call a simple property tax cut, giving $700 million in relief over 2 years for homeowners and for businesses. They say they can deliver it here at the end of the session without any cuts to schools or fire services using surplus funds. Now, starting next year, this would save the average family about $275 in property taxes. First responders in the Denver Metro began a week-long training program today focused on their mental health. A group of about 30 firefighters and police officers will learn how to improve their eating, sleeping, exercise habits, and overall mindset. We spoke with the Denver fire lieutenant who says programs like these are desperately needed.
I think it was hard for some of these people to take a break from their normal because we are workhorses, and we're in a time where we're short-staffed, so we're getting mandatory overtimes across the board. So for us to take a break and actually work on ourselves is huge for that mental health.
Wow, and the first responders will receive 8 hours of mental health training every day this week. Colorado Congressman Jason Crow and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi are part of a congressional delegation visiting Ukraine and Poland. They met with Poland's president today after meeting with Ukraine's president over the weekend. Pelosi is now the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Ukraine. Also in Ukraine is U.S. diplomat Christina Kvien. She's the acting ambassador to the country, the first U.S. diplomat to return since the war broke out. And she's promising more support from America to the Ukrainian people.
We'll continue our efforts to do everything possible here on the ground to help Ukraine win this war.
Over in the eastern part of the country, the chief of the Russian army recently spent several days on the front lines. Ukrainian officials say he was wounded in an airstrike and forced to evacuate back to Russia. The Pentagon says that it is unable to confirm if he was injured.
The First Lady will travel to Europe this week to learn more firsthand about the impact of the war in Ukraine. The White House says she will spend 5 days on a solo trip to several countries where refugees have escaped to. She plans to meet with Ukrainian mothers and children in Romania and Slovakia. as well as U.S. military members, humanitarian, and top-level government leaders. The war in Ukraine has been going on for more than 2 months now. A new resource is helping students make sense of what happened, as well as the ongoing refugee crisis.
We feel like our unique contribution to this conversation and to the way we can help support teachers and help them support their students is by really looking at the human component and really inspiring empathy among students.
The curriculum for teachers and middle and high school students from the nonprofit Facing History and Ourselves includes reflective questions designed to get students talking and get an in-depth understanding of the war.
So it's really helping students think about what they're thinking, the emotions that they're feeling, and then sort of what's the action, what's taking place, and what else could be happening to help support a particular population.
That's the head, heart, and conscience model that this nonprofit says they're focused on. It has seen 10,000 downloads so far, each of the 2 Ukraine resources that it put out. Meredith O'Brien is one of the teachers using the guides in her classroom.
I also think on a deeper level, that is part of what I believe is so important about a history education and a solid history education, again, to help students move towards that place of understanding of who they are in the world and what their role is as an individual in the world today.
She says that she wants her students to understand the historical context of how we got to where we are today in Ukraine.
I also want them to leave with an understanding of the people who are responding to this, whether at a level of sort of individual action or more collective action. So individuals or nations, that there are people who are responding to this, and in particular looking at the refugee crisis and understanding why it's important that we respond to that.
You can see these materials for yourself at facinghistory.org under Educator Resources. The ability to meet with a therapist virtually has made getting care more accessible during the pandemic, but the rules are changing. We're taking a look into the efforts to make sure that you can keep seeing a counselor no matter where they're based.
And the NHL regular season is over, and now it's time for the playoffs. Up next, how the Avs are getting ready for their first postseason series.